Hello, guys. Nice to meet you all. Actually, welcome to my talk. It is called Guardrails First. And actually, in this session, I'm going to talk about how to build AI agents that won't leak your secrets. My name is Ihar. I am a lead security engineer and pen tester at a company called TechMagic. I have previous experience in test automation, security testing automation. I am also an AWS community builder, contributor of several OWASP projects. Also, I was a speaker on different events, and in general, I love to share my knowledge with the community because I believe that in this way they learn and I learn as well from the community. I also passionate about AI, cloud security, web penetration testing. Also have practical experience with AI, mobile, web application networks, and AWS. We help team to build secure infrastructure and secure SDLC. So now let's talk probably about the agenda of today's presentation. We will talk like first thing first. We will talk about how AI is used in cybersecurity, what are like main point of how AI can be used, what are the main processes, how it usually used by different teams. Also, then we will talk about how AI agents can be used by pentesters, what are the common risks and pitfalls that you may expect when using AI for pentesting. Then we will go through how to actually deal with it. So we will talk about anatomy of the well-architected agent that is secure, that is resilient, and that obviously won't leak your data. Next, we will talk about lessons learned. I will share my experience with building one agent that was used for pentesting activities, and actually I will share what was wrong, actually how I fixed it, what are the lessons learned, and actually I hope this experience will be useful to you as well. And also I will share with you some useful links and resources that you can use later in order to further expand and deepen your knowledge in this topic and actually improve your skills. So probably let's start, and we will start from how AI can be used in cybersecurity. I believe that many of you already use AI for different cybersecurity things, and also you know what are like the main trade-offs, what can be done with the help of AI. But in general, if you're talking about common trends, AI is usually used to perform reconnaissance activities, also writing some proof of concept scripts for detecting vulnerabilities, then automating different types of security issues. Especially it is helpful when you provide your report to the customer team and actually they are able to easily reproduce the findings without the need to reach out to you. Obviously, reporting it is a thing that takes a lot of time, and when you have an option to create a customized report based on your templates, based on your style of writing, your level of depth, that's actually great and saves you a lot of time and efforts. Then we are talking about triaging of detected issues because obviously not only defenders use and pentesters using AI, attackers also do this. And actually, in order to deal with all these issues, we need to have some tools that can help us actually to streamline the processes and reduce time required to react to these issues. It is also about reverse engineering and so on. So as you can see, there are probably a wide range of different opportunities where you can embed AI and actually improve your results, extend your capabilities, and achieve better outcomes. If you are talking about like common ways how AI and especially AI agents can be used for pentesting, then we can look at this sample agent. As you can see, like normal flow, there is a human operator in place because obviously for some of the things, especially if you're talking about some researches, then we will find out that in terms of black box testing, when the agent does not have access to source code and probably does not have a lot of details about the internal system implementation, knowledge, and probably some experience of a real pentest, a real human operator can play a significant role in success of this pentest. And that's why probably the optimal couple it is to pair experience of human operator, its knowledge and capabilities together with AI that can extend this and can help you to achieve better results. Typically, we have some tools. For example, we can have some port scanner tools, some directory scanner in order to enumerate common directories if you are talking especially about web applications, maybe some XSS scanner. And once agent launched tools got some results, it needs to report these findings using probably our custom templates, our style of writing, and so on. And in order to ensure that we are able to reproduce it at any time, we also need some proof of concept script generator in order to ensure that all the detected issues can be easily reproduced and there won't be any issues in this area. So that's how probably common agent may look like for a pentester. And now let's talk a bit about some part that is not obviously the fun, but very important. When we are talking about pen testing, actually, especially if we are talking about production environments, when most of the teams want to ensure how their production environment, how their end users are protected, you are dealing as a pen tester with handling some sensitive data and with NDA. And because of this, you should ensure that your agent, your AI, like say, let's say assistants, are handling this data in the right way, and there won't be any leaks. There won't be any misconfigurations that could lead to the situation when detected vulnerabilities or any information that was retrieved from the target system during pentest was somehow shared with the third party, because obviously that's not what should happen, and that's not what you are asked to do. That's why it makes the usage of AI in pentesting activities especially, like, let's say, regulated and especially important in terms of how we handle this data. Also, we should care about another important aspect, because when you delegate some of your work to agent, there can be different models of how much work do you delegate to the agent. Actually, what it is allowed to do, what are the tools that are accessible to your agent, and so on. And in some cases, especially if you are talking about some fragile environments that are not stable, that can easily crash, you can experience issues with situations when, for example, you decided to test if there is protection in place against brute force attacks, and accidentally your agent launched, let's say, Gorebuster or maybe Hydra, and it crashed the application because it was not designed to handle such a large amount of requests. And in this case, probably your customer won't be happy when they see this behavior, and you should keep in mind this as well, because every agent performs some actions, and you are the person who is responsible for how it behaves, and you should ensure that it works in a safe way and actually do not cause any harm to the targeted system. If you are talking about how to deal with all those issues, with all those common pitfalls, then we should like prioritize our approach and make it like staged, because there are different stages, different levels of how we architect and design our agents, and they actually have big impact on what we have as a result. And if you're talking about where to start, obviously, in most cases, first fundamental steps, it is threat modeling, because when you are designing your agent, the like infrastructure for your agent, tools, and so on, you should think about what could go wrong, because the simplest approach to threat modeling, it is what we are working on, what can go wrong, how we are going to work on it, and what can we do about it, and actually did we do a good job. So these four basic questions helps us to ensure that we are covering all the possible risks, and we ensure that some common issues won't rise in our, let's say, application, system, network, agent, because we try to predict some of the issues, we try to apply in common patterns based on our experience, observations, best practices, and it helps to avoid a lot of pitfalls and a lot of vulnerabilities as well. That's why threat modeling, it is a fundamental and important step once you have an idea of your agent, because that's great when pentest team have a dedicated like developers that can help them to build the agent. When pentest team can outsource some of their work, but let's be honest, in most cases, you as a pentester, especially if you have some coding experience previously, then you probably will experiment with different AI-powered ideas, and actually you will try to build your own agent because you know how it should look like, what are the some best practices that should be in place. And this approach, while works well and allows a wide range of people actually to access these AI capabilities and build tools that really help them to make the job faster, it also produces some risks. And when we are talking about threat modeling, it helps to map all the agent components. So what we are going to do, what will be the behavior of this agent, what tools will be available to it, and actually highlight some common threat because we know what can go wrong. We know all the MITRA matrices and so on. And then we think about possible ways on how to mitigate those threats. We highlight those risks, document them, and use during next stages. Next stages are obviously to produce a threat model that will serve as your reference point during the implementation phase. And if you are building the agent by yourself, then probably the next step would be to creating a specification because just from my own experience, spec-based development, it's something that helps you to ensure that your result will be consistent, you achieve some expected output, and you will take into account all the things that are important to you, and your AI coding agent will be able to cover, if not all, then vast majority of all the requirements. That's why a good specification that was based on threat model can work well during this stage. If you are talking about threat modeling itself, then as the output, you will have something similar to this one, as it is like not a real threat model, but something that can be looked like or used as a reference because all these red marks, they will be your vulnerabilities and actually your risks that you discover during the threat modeling session. So later, once you have all of this, you will have a, let's say, table with the potential threat, what you can do about it, what are the remediation efforts required, and actually this will transform in concrete remediation plan and actually will be embedded into your specification. So, okay, now we have our threat model, we built our specification, we start working on our agents. What's next? Next one, probably one of the most important parts of any agents, it is tooling, because using tools, our agent will be able to perform and automate a lot of processes. It can be information gathering, it can be vulnerability scanning, some brute force testing, testing for common misconfigurations, assessing security headers, some configurations if you are talking about, for example, cloud environments, network environments, and so on. So while all these tools, they can really help you to achieve better results and cover more, they also pose some risks, and you should take care of these risks. Because of that, you should probably take into account that your tools, if are used in wrong way, because we know that it doesn't matter how well we design our system prompts, maybe how well we try to predict all the possible situations where our prompts, there is still some percentage of opportunity that our agent will be misused, and because of this, it probably can misuse all the tools that are connected to it. Also, we are talking about unlocked actions if you do not have robust monitoring practices in place. It is about like excessive requests. For example, when we launch tools like GoBuster, it can generate a high volume of requests and it can actually create a lot of noise. Also, we are talking about privileges because for some tools, we probably need to grant, for example, like sudo permissions and so on. In case if they are misused, it could lead to a significant damage for the system and actually to potential compromission of our agent. And we are also dealing with unexpected code and command executions. That is also important. So, what to do with all these risks? First of all, there are now systems and tools that allow you to launch your agent in sandboxed environments. It is, for example, OpenShell from NVIDIA. Don't worry, all the links will be available in my presentation, and I will share later where you can access it. Then, if you are talking about one of the probably cornerstones of any application, cloud system, cloud environment, and any agent, it is detailed logging and monitoring, also alerting. Because if something goes wrong, you should have some way to receive a notification on it, and in this way you will be able to launch incident response process, actually remediate the issue and produce lessons learned, produce some mitigations in order to ensure that it won't happen again in the future. Also ensure to implement rate limiting and fallback mechanism in order to ensure that your target remains available and actually you won't cause any harm to it. It is especially important in case if you are dealing with environments that are protected with some web application firewalls and so on, because in this case, any excessive attack attempt can be blocked and your entire agent will be blocked. So you just spent a lot of time without any results. And actually, that's probably not what you are trying to achieve. Also, try to utilize some well-known and predefined configuration options. For example, if you're talking about tools like GoBuster, DealBuster, and so on, please ensure that because in these cases, it's probably better to define a list of possible scan modes that you control, that you know already, and you ensure that they won't cause any harm to the targeted system, to the environment that you are scanning, and in this way, you will save a lot of time, not only for your customer team, but also for your team, because actually in case of potential misuse and in case if something goes wrong, you can be affected by this. Next one is probably one of the most important parts of the agent. Any agent, it is LLM that is the brain of your agent. It helps to orchestrate the execution of tasks. It decides what tools to call, what should be done next, how to write reports, and a lot more. And probably one of the main risks with it is sensitive data protection, because probably not so many teams can allow to deploy private LLMs where they have zero data retention, where they control all the perimeter, all the data handling processes. And in this case, we also want to have access to the latest LLM models from vendors like Anthropic, like OpenAI, like Google. And when we want to ensure that we have those latest capabilities, we probably also want to ensure that our sensitive data won't leave our environment, and we ensure that it is safe and it is protected for such misuse. And at the same time, having an opportunity to somehow obfuscate your data and so on, it saves you a lot of money, because obviously you can switch between different LM providers and you can choose the best one that matches your case. For example, there is no need to use the latest Anthropic Claude Sonnet model in order to check for simple header misconfiguration. And in some cases, experimenting with different providers, based on my experience, it is probably the most important thing that will help you to make your agent also cost effective and actually fast, because in some cases LLM requires more time for processing your request. And actually, if we are talking about how to deal with it in the proper way, I would recommend to support multiple LM providers, because it's also about availability of your agent, your infrastructure. Because if one provider becomes unavailable, you can switch to another one and you can continue your testing. Also, if maybe you hit your rate limit and you are not using the plan that allows to easily multiply your limits for the certain period of time, then supporting multiple LM providers is an option for you. Also, I mentioned it previously, try to select the most appropriate LLM based on the task. So it will be cost effective, it will be easier to use, and you will actually perform the task without overspending. Next one, probably one of the most important things, it is implement data obfuscation. So even if you are using third-party provider, unless you have obviously zero data retention agreement, you will be able to not lose the context, because if you just replace, for example, the blast account ID with phrase in square brackets that says account ID, then probably your LLM won't be able to return you a precise response, and it may affect the quality of your pentest. But if you replace it with some dummy value that exactly like leaves the structure of this account ID valid. So we have some specific account ID, like let's say 12 numbers, and actually you replace it with some fake account ID, like the same 12 digits, but actually quality of LLM response will be way better. Also, if you are dealing with personal identifiable information, secrets, and other sensitive data, think about using models like OpenAI privacy filter, because it can help you to, it is locally hosted, you can deploy it on your local machine, and actually you can highlight and remove all the sensitive data from your document and so on. And finally, compare different LLM models in terms of efficiency, pricing, reasoning capabilities, because it's about cost optimized approach to building your agents, and actually it's about being efficient and able to switch between different LLM providers. If you are talking about like sample implementation, you can see it on the slide. So we can have some input files that we have our agent orchestrator. Then it calls module for data obfuscation, and our sensitive data replace it with the dummy data. Then we send a request to the selected LLM, and once the actually response was received, we perform the obfuscation, and this ensures that first, we receive high quality output for LLM because it has all the context, and actually it is able to produce a high quality output. Then we do not leak sensitive data to any third party provider, and data stays protected. And also we are remaining cost effective because we are not limited to only local hosted LLMs, or maybe only providers where we need to sign zero data retention agreement. Then, if you're talking about prompting, prompting is obviously one of the most important parts, because you should take care about your system prompt, how the agent will look like, how it behaves, and it will define how effective it can be for you. Implement protection against prompt injections. LiamaGuard, OWASP cheat sheet, that is obviously a great one. It is your helpers, your keys on how to achieve protection from most of the prompt injections, because obviously how it doesn't matter how well you design it, your system prompt, there will still be some percentage of successful attack attempts that can bypass it and actually affect your implementation. Also validate and sanitize LLM input and output, because it ensures that you do not have any injections attempts. You ensure that the data remains consistent in the expected format and so on. And also test your protections. In case with agents, you can use tools like PromptFoo and actually ensure that there is no prompt injection attempts that can bypass your guardrails. Next topic is MCP servers, because also they can significantly extend your agent capabilities. They can integrate with a wide range of tools, external system, but they also introduce some security risks, and we should keep them in mind, because it's about supply chain attacks, it's about overly permissive access, confused deputy risks, it's also about tool poisoning and manipulation, and also data exposure. In order to ensure that we are not vulnerable to this type of issue, you should scan MCPs for potential threats and vulnerabilities. And there is a great tool called MCP Scanner that can help you to deal with this issue. Also implement controls and guardrails to ensure that you are providing only the limited amount of information and limited permissions to your MCP server. And in this way, you ensure the least privilege access, and actually you do not do information oversharing, and you provide exactly what is required to perform an action. As in case with LLMs, responses, validate input and output. Also, you should ensure that there is strong authentication, authorization, and logging, monitoring, auditing in place. Because logging, monitoring, and auditing it's something that will provide you answers to your requests when something goes in a wrong way. And if you're going to explore more on this topic, you can use OWASP MCP security cheat sheet that actually contains a lot of best practices that can be used by different teams in order to ensure that their MCP servers remain secure. Then, obviously, we should care about secure coding practices because when we are building agents, we use some programming language, we use some frameworks, and they are not secure by design. It is our responsibility to ensure that we are using them in the right way. That's why secure coding practices actually they are highly important, and you should ensure that you follow them in order to remediate and in order to prevent some of the vulnerabilities. In order to ensure that your code and your agent remains secure, integrate SAST, DAST, and ECA tools so you ensure that you're covering supply chain risks, you are covering some code issues, and actually your agents remain stable and it is hard to break your defenses. Perform secure code review. Thankfully, there are a lot of tools. Some of them, from my experience, that produce the best output. It is ZeroPass, AILS, AI SLE, Claude, because Claude Code can do a great security review, especially if it is guided by your instructions. And when you have experience in secure code review, it can be your actually advantage. Also, we are talking about Corky because Corky is also a great scanner that is able to cover a lot and actually for a reasonable price. And first, secret managing best practices because it's called secret. Then you should keep it hidden from like some third-party eyes and some eyes that should not see it. And scan for hard-coded secrets. In this case, Trufflehawk can be a tool that will provide you assistance in this task. So now let's talk about my experience with building agents and actually how it happened, how it looked like. So first of all, let's actually talk a bit about the agent. It was an agent to performing pentests and actually audits of the network environments, and actually it has some entry point. It has different operation modes like single audit, like some cross-account audit in case it is a cloud environment and we are auditing network inside the cloud environment. Then it has IAM access analysis module. And actually, then we have a remediation module that was responsible for producing a remediation plans and actually remediation guidelines for the team. We had some scanner, we had some structure validator because scanners can produce reports and we need to ensure that they actually follows valid structure and we are able to parse it. There was obviously a report parser. Then one of the modules was data obfuscator that actually removed all the sensitive data before it was sent to the LLM, report anonymizer. Then we have parts responsible for processing this data with LLM capabilities and obviously some exporters that can help us to produce our reports in different formats and notify the team via Slack, email, or any other channel. So what was the story? The story was that I assumed that the like sample report that I used for one of the tools is enough, and actually my data obfuscation practices works well. But then I decided to test it on the sandbox environment, like sandbox cloud environment, and test network. With the help of the agent, I deployed the agent, launched the scan, all the tools. It produced some report, but then I looked at the final report and I saw that there are some like strange and some at first glance dummy data. I started to look over the prompts, over all the logs that were collected by the agents in order to understand what's happened. And it turned out that newer version of the scanner that was installed because it was not fixed actually in the like packages on file or in requirements file if you're talking about like Python environments. And because of that, Scanner was using a new version of reports that actually my agent didn't expect to actually process. And that's why some of the data that was sent to LLM was not obfuscated. Thanks God, it was like sandbox environment, so nothing sensitive were sent to the third-party provider. But actually, that was a meaningful experience that helped me to understand a few things. First of them is to always test your agent before running on production. You should have some maybe sandbox environment, but keep it as close as possible to the real environment because it will help you to ensure that your data remains valid and your expectations actually can be confirmed in this way. Also ensure that comprehensive logging are in place because, as I said, it is your key to successful debugging of your agent in case if something goes wrong. Be sure to test data obfuscation on real data because data can be in different format, reports can change, some maybe processes can be broken, and so on. You should ensure that robust data obfuscation practices are in place and that your data obfuscation models really work and they do their job. Validate LLM responses because when something goes wrong, for example, OpenAI API is not available due to some reason, you can receive incomplete answer and actually your agent can go in the wrong way, or for example, not to stop scanning of the environment because actually LLM didn't decide what to do next. And in order to ensure that you will receive your expected results. And also one lessons learned that actually more about implementation. If possible, for example, in case with OpenAI, you have like completions API and you have conversations API. If you are dealing with situations when you need to handle a large amount of data, probably conversation API or its alternative in a case you are using different providers, it is your way to ensure that large amount of data will be processed successfully without losing important context. Because in other way, you risk to have some issues with your agent and that actually won't be fixed and you lose the context and quality of your results will be significantly lower than you expect. So now what's next? Obviously, it's probably impossible to talk about all the things in like 30 minutes or even 1 hour, but I leave you these resources that will help you to deep dive in this topic, and most of them are related to OWASP Generative AI Security Initiative. I highly recommend you to visit this resource because there are a lot of initiatives, there are a lot of projects, there are a lot of white papers and so on that will help you to deep dive on many topics. For example, like securing MCP servers, securing agents top 10, LLM top 10, and all this knowledge will help you to ensure that you master this topic and actually you will be able to work successful in this direction. And also here is my blog where I describe how I was building different agents and actually what I learned so far after building those agents. It can be especially helpful for people who actually are not full-time developers, but they also want to build their agents and they probably don't, as of now, don't know where to start. Then, if you want to access my content, my resources, and just to connect with me, then please follow my Linktree. There you will find this presentation and actually all other information that may be useful, and I will be happy to answer your questions. And yeah, that's all from me for today. Thanks you for joining my presentation. It was a pleasure to share my knowledge with you today.